You guys, AJ Lee returned last night on Monday Night Raw. So, you guys, it was actually a pretty great, incredible segment, especially how they did it on SmackDown as well. So, of course, she come out, got a tremendous pop from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin crowd. And, of course, they chanted AJ Lee back to back to back. She was definitely smiling. And, you guys, that return of hers got 178 million views, which I was definitely, not surprised, but I was definitely impressed, with that, how WWE, having us paying $30 a month for ESPN subscription. They should be giving us something even more than this. So I think more WWE returns will be coming, you guys. And with that being said, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch came out first and demanded her intercontinental championship back. But then again, you guys, that's where we had Seth Rollins ended up coming out because Becky Lynch, called him out there, to try to get back his intercontinental championship. Because to play it off, Becky doesn't want any anything to do with AJ Lee. So of course, we ended up where Becky Lynch was like, well, where is your husband? Where is CM Punk? And the crowd was chanting CM Punk. Seth Rollins, he was very furious. Like I said, you see where CM Punk was standing behind Becky Lynch. And then we ended up getting where Seth Rollins was getting mad because AJ Lee kept blocking him. And then, of course, Seth Rollins ended up accepting the mixed tag team match for WrestlePalooza on next Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Central Time, and I think it's 4 o'clock Pacific. But anyways, you guys, they would accept it. So at WrestlePalooza, CM Punk, AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. So we did get something during the commercial break, you guys, that I checked out on X, and AJ Styles was saying that something was holding him back. He doesn't have any help. He was surprised that Dragon Lee came out and helped him, and he talked about Gallows and Anderson as well. I was like, oh wow. So that right there, you guys, definitely surprised me and everything like that. But like I said, Dragon Lee did come out and fight off the El Grande Americanos, which is like two of them. But of course, we ended up getting where we're gonna see now for, we're gonna have Jesse Testator and Corey Graves on Raw. Now we also got to where at WrestlePalooza, we still got the Women's World Championship match, the vacant Women's World Championship match. It's supposed to have been a contract signing, you guys, and I feel like WWE is really like wasting time, with this Women's World Championship thing, and they're not like really putting any efforts into it. Like we can definitely see where Io Sky possibly will get cost, and that's where Stephanie Vaquer will win that Women's World Championship. Now Bayley, of course, she's still hearing those voices. She was hearing the good side of Bayley, and then after then we heard that kind of like the evil side Bayley came out. I was like, oh man, here we go. And then so of course you guys, Bayley, was happy when she heard her happy self, and her happy self was like, go apologize to Laura. No, don't go apologize to her, and so on and so forth. You guys, I was like, oh man, I was like, when did this character is gonna debut? Well, we see it at Survivor Series possibly. But anyways, you guys, let's go ahead and continue on with the show. So next thing we ended up having where Penta was backstage, talking to Adam Pearce, like, why don't you believe in Penta, so on and so forth. Then he started, of course, speaking in Spanish. And then we also got where Rusev, he said he won a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. And that's where we're going to, have a match between Rusev and Penta. And, of course, we'll get to that later. Actually, no, we'll get to it now. So Rusev actually pinned Penta, you guys, with hitting a Machka kick, which is like you jump off the second rope and then you jump it in, of course, the super kick. Anyways, I want to go ahead and get this over with. Nikki Bella was choked out by Asuka, so I was like, well, dang, that's wild. So, of course, you guys, we also got where Nikki Bella was backstage talking to, Asuka, saying she's tired of her and so on and so forth. And then, she starts speaking her language. And then that's when Rhea Ripley popped. You guys, yes, we end up getting the Usos to open up the show in Milwaukee. Of course, they came down. And you can see kind of like the look that Jimmy Uso had towards Jay and everything. But of course, the Usos are now back in Yo City. And of course, you guys, it felt cool at first, but then again, it kind of felt weird. Braun and Bronson actually ended up coming out, you guys, and saying that, you think we respect your family after, what you did to Paul Heyman and so on and so forth. And then we also ended up getting where, Jimmy, reminding them of who they are. But yes, you guys, LA Knight would come out there, to fight off the Bronze. Of course, he's still upset that they cost him, the world title and all the other stuff that they pretty much did. And then, of course, the Usos pretty much just watched LA Knight get his ass whipped. But then again, you seen LA Knight still trying to fend him off. The Usos would jump through, do a suicide dive out through the middle rope and all that good stuff there. And then, of course, you guys, that's where that's where they pretty much do their thing. And then, of course, you guys, LA Knight ended up getting pushed by Bronson Reed to Jey Uso in the corner. And that's where Jey Uso was pretty much like, this man is trying to get me. And then, of course, that's where Jay ended up, was trying to leave. And, he slammed his back down, slammed his glasses down. And, he said a couple things. And Jimmy said, you kind of sound like Roman. Because, Jimmy was like, you don't sound like yourself. And then, of course, you guys, that's where LA Knight ended up going back. Well, Jimmy Uso going back there to talk to LA Knight. And LA Knight said, I can do this, on my own. I don't need no help or anything like that. And that's where we had the main event of Bronson Reed versus LA Knight. You guys, Bronson Reed would become victorious over LA Knight and all that good stuff. And that's where we ended up getting where the beatdown, of course, the numbers game, you get the gist, what's going on there. And then, of course, we ended up getting where Jimmy Uso ended up coming out, but he ends up getting speared. And after he ended up getting speared, that's when Jay ended up coming out as well, you guys, not through the crowd, but of course, how he always come out. And then that's where, we see, how we see Jay kind of lower himself and, come out. I thought he was going to come out with a steel chair because we know how the old, unhinged Jey Uso used to do. Of course, he would come out, get speared, of course, by Braun Breaker, because Braun Breaker was laying spears on LA Knight, Jimmy Uso, and Jey Uso. So I was like, God dang, you guys. So with that being said, Bronson Reed was about to go for the tsunami on Jimmy Uso so he can feel the wrath. But of course, you guys, that's where LA Knight ended up having a steel chair, ended up hitting Bronson Reed with it, knocking him off the rope. And then that's where, LA Knight, is looking around, making sure everything's good, making sure Braun Breaker is not trying to run 23 miles an hour around the ring and then run into him. But of course, that didn't happen, you guys. And then that's where Jey Uso ends. I knew something was off about it because they kept playing it. They didn't have the little thing to where they show Lee Fitting and all that stuff, whatever. Well, Lee Fitting and Triple H and some other thing like that. But of course, what's going on with Jey Uso, you guys? I would like to know your thoughts, your opinions on this, because this is going to get people talking. It's going to be very interesting to see, what's going to go down. I've seen people on X, saying, it's going to be sad when, when Jay ends up super kicking, Jay ended up super kicking Jimmy. I'm not sure what's going to happen, you guys, but this is a different side of Jey Uso. Ever since Jey Uso has talked to Roman, well, he been kind of like that, but after he talked to Roman, saying, do this for yourself and so on and so forth. Y'all remember the talk that Roman and Jey Uso had backstage, 2 weeks ago? But yeah, Jey Uso has definitely been a little bit different. Like, comment, subscribe to Chris Wrestling Views, you guys, here on YouTube.com. I'm headed to work right now, you guys. It is 8:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you watch NXT, I may do an NXT review video as well. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to me. Make sure you share my videos. Check out all my other content, you guys. And until next time, Chris Wrestling Views out. I'll see if I got any wrestling news to post. Make sure you follow me on X, TikTok, whatnot. Same thing, Chris Wrestling Views. To you guys, I'll see you guys later. Peace.